Hello, hello, friends. It is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, and we are here for the daily transmission. Please say hello when you arrive. It is always such a joy to get to start my day with you. Today is a very sensitive day for me, and in the spirit of 3-5 energy, I thought I would just come talk about it a little bit with y'all today. So that is why I am a few minutes behind my normal schedule. Just kind of gathering my thoughts and how I'd like to share this. And I think I'd like to start by talking about what I was really, I unpacked. I had this kind of like realization moment yesterday when I was teaching my incubator program. We're in the second month of our 3-month experience. This is a journey through the gene keys. And so it's a 3-month breakdown of each of the 3 sequences. So this month we are in the Venus sequence. Now, the Venus sequence, I talk about Venus a lot here. We've had some like Venus transits recently, but Venus is ruled by 2 signs. So Venus has 2 like faces or 2 expressions. She's got the communicative, like Libran side, right? The side that is into relationship and wants to bond with other people and create community. And then there is the like self-love, monetary, financial, materially supported side of Venus. And so when we're talking about the Venus sequence, you can apply it really to any kind of interaction or relationship. And this is why when I was teaching about business exclusively, so often we would wind up using the analogy of dating or of relationship, because truly relationships are relationships are relationships are relationships. Like it really is. And the same things that trigger you in your personal relationships are going to trigger you in professional relationships, in your deep social relationships, in your familial relationships, and so on. And so it's really like a recognition of the fact that like we're operating from certain wounding patterns, right? That there's certain, like we have chemistry and energy that's going to bring different people into our lives, and that's going to bring us into the lives of other people. And what it is that drives that's all in the Venus sequence of your gene keys. And then there are 4 spheres in particular that talk about wounding that imprinted at different times. And I won't go into like the complexity of all that right now, but I've shared with you before, because just a few weeks ago, we had the sun activating the 25th gene key. So the 25th gene key happens to be where the sphere of my core wound, but the core wound is also the vocation. So on this day, April 19th, I thought I would talk to you about this because this is the day that my dad got custody of me when I was, let's see, it was literally the day of the Oklahoma City bombing. So it would have been 1995. So I was 6. And so that was in not the core wound, obviously, because that's like a fetal situation, like it's like in the womb, but that is in the first sphere right out of it. Anyway, I was just real like, okay, sorry, I have to like back up, and just this is me transparently like sharing something with y'all that is very deeply like emotional, but has such relevance. Like the aha moment that this brought to me yesterday was so huge that I want to share it with you, because I feel like there's something that you can find in your own chart here too. And so the core wound sphere, this is something that is from the womb. Okay. This is something that when you contemplate it, it's not going to be just relevant to you. It's going to be relevant to like everyone in your genetic line. When we talk about ancestral healing or breaking generational traumas, this is like the big one, right? Wherever the sphere of your core wound is. And this is why so often, especially those of us who identify as like supporters, coaches, mentors, guides, healers, whatever, very often the thing that is our core wound that we are consciously like here breaking those patterns and working on, it translates into our work and thus is part of our vocation. And that's why it also ties into the prosperity sequence. But when we're trying to heal this in our Venus sequence, when we're really trying to like focus on it and when I say heal, I do mean in the like wounded healer kind of sense, and the fact that we know that this isn't something we can't erase it. Like it is and was there, but we can choose to respond to it differently. We can choose to operate from a different frequency. We don't have to operate from the shadow, which is what you're going to see a lot, especially in the unconscious patterns of like probably your parents. I know that for me, a lot of this, like, I mean, this translates to, I mean, was crazy when I had this like moment yesterday, and I've gone over my Venus sequence so many times. I've gone even over I had a whole Substack post about Gene Key 25 and talking about my core wound and how it all, ties together. But it wasn't until I was talking about it out loud yesterday in my class for my incubator that I made the connection. The shadow of that particular gene key for me is constriction, okay? The core wound, constriction. Constriction is all about the breath. It's about feeling like, right, you can't breathe. Now, as this translates into my vocation, I think it's like fascinating that, I'm in yoga teacher training, and this was not something that I even thought about, but and so much of yoga, it's all about the breath. It's all about being present. And that was, really a turning point for me as well. And so, but when I reflect on, this happening this week, right? Me having this recognition, my father who, and again, the reason I even bring this up today is because today was the day, it's the anniversary of him getting custody of me, which back in the 90s was like unheard of. Okay. A single father getting custody of a young child in Florida in the 90s. So that speaks a lot to like the other familial situations, right? So my dad passed away 20 years ago this year. He was 42 years old, and he passed away from pneumonia. What is pneumonia, y'all? It is, you can't breathe, right? My biological mother right now is in the hospital with what? Pneumonia. Are you serious? She has COPD. She has constriction in her throat. She has like a tracheotomy now. What? This is the core wound, the genetic pattern. Like this is literally like, it's not even just a figurative thing. It's literally all in my genetics. And like, it's weird that before any of that happened with either of them, like before my dad died, like long before, like early in my childhood, I remember like I have two irrational fears, and still to this day. Being underwater, don't like it. Being in outer space, I don't know why I don't need to worry about that. And so I don't think it's something I'm going to be doing anytime soon. But those two things freak me out. And it's because I don't like the thought of not being able to breathe. What? Like my deepest, like inner fear, like the deepest core, like the core wound that I have, right? It's all about constriction. Even my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she had like parts of her lungs removed and was like still trying to smoke cigarettes like right after that, like in the hospital. It's like, are you serious? No. And the thing what constriction in a figurative sense, so they're very literal in the way that all happened, right? Is like having pneumonia, having tracheotomies, having an inability for your lungs to expand, like, all of that for them. That's a very literal thing, but in a figurative sense, constriction is like cutting yourself off from breath, from life, from energy, from prana, right? And like keeping it, you're trapped, you're like not moving, and it is isolating. And when I think of all of those people in my family, and especially even when I think of my own like shadow tendencies and things that I've worked through, and like the worst times in my life have all been isolating. Like that's been the pattern, is like a pattern of just deep isolation, and just cutting yourself off from support, from energy, from resources, and just feeling so constricted and so tight and so, ugh. And so it's interesting to make that connection now, that my core wound sphere, that the shadow frequency of this, that the thing that I'm really here to help my generational line break that pattern, to heal that generational trauma, to activate something higher in my genetics moving forward, and to help my daughter to do the same, that it's constriction, and that we need to step into self-acceptance. That's the way of 25, the way of acceptance, from constriction to universal love. Yeah. And and it's sad, it saddens me that my family, that, a lot of them, I mean, they do, that's so their thing, that they isolate, especially, I mean, not just my biological family, which is kind of, interesting, but I would encourage you, if you haven't looked up your gene keys, to take a look at the core sphere. When you look it up in the gene keys, it might say vocation, because it's both. Okay, it's the last sphere in your Venus sequence, and it is the first one, right, going into your prosperity sequence. So I just wanted to share that like aha moment with you today, because I had a good cry about it yesterday. Had some really great recognition there, and today, is a new day. I get to, normally on this day, because it was a day that my dad and I celebrated. It's so, people say like things get better with time, or things get easier with time. This is, I think, like a really great example of what it means to like heal, or have a wounded healer, or like what the wounded healer really represents. Because it's not like, I'm never gonna not miss my dad, I'm never gonna not wish that we had more time together, but I'm not in a constant state of grief and mourning, and like literally just like, oh, like everything is terrible because he's not here, or like blaming everything in my life, or all of the pain, or all of the missteps, or whatever, on the fact that he's not here. That's the difference, right? Is that you get to grow through a wound without it holding you back, or without it turning you into a victim, and without it making you, beholden to the circumstances of the past, because that was 20 years ago. It's crazy. I think it's been 20 years now that my dad has been, that my dad passed away. But yeah, 20 years ago, pneumonia, constriction, are you kidding me? And maybe if he had a little bit more acceptance, and had a little bit more access to universal love, maybe he would have been able to heal his own pain. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. But that's okay. I'm here, and I'm working on it for our family line. And that's all we can do. That's all any of us can do, is just the best that we can today with what we have and what we know. And awareness is the first step, my friends. We cannot heal something, or work on something, if we don't first have awareness and acknowledgement of it. So I encourage you to take a look at yourself today, and see, what those patterns say about you, and maybe your family. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all I have for today. Y'all, again, I emphasize, do not manifest anything, right? We're not setting intentions. We are not in a state of manifestation. I know it's a new moon. I know it's like, oh, but it's an eclipse. No, the eclipse, it's not anything to like be afraid of. Okay. We're not giving the stars power over us. Okay. That's not how it works. But we are taking a note from the weather patterns, you get me? And recognizing that today is not necessarily the best day for setting new intentions, that today would be a really great day for checking in with the intentions you set about a month ago and seeing how that's going for you. What you can do more to, double down, and what maybe is like, we're doing too much. So I will have a post on Substack about that a little bit later. Also, Substack for paid subscribers, I do have a workshop coming today. So that is about the fixed signs. We've got this one, and then next month, fixed signs. Oh my gosh, I'm so backwards. This month we've got fixed signs. Next month we do the mutable signs. And then after that, I think we're going to do a series of AMAs for the summer, because summer, as I mentioned yesterday, is my like chill out season. It's my winter. It is my not necessarily doing too much work on anything, and doing more assessing and regrouping. So that is, I think, a really great time to just host some AMAs for paid subscribers. So that is over on Substack. The link is in my bio. And if you'd like to get a breakthrough session to talk about your core wound, to talk about any of the stuff that I mentioned today, the link is in my bio to do that as well. So I will catch you tomorrow for the next transmission. I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday, and I will catch you tomorrow for 420 and Taurus season. See you then.